Okay, I've got 9:30, so let me call the meeting to order. Got to wait till Lee walks up here. We're leaving the front door open for the moment, but for safety reasons, if somebody in the back could go and just pull that door closed in 5 or 10 minutes, that would be great. It's already locked. You just have to pull it closed. Okay. I want to introduce Lee Glowacki. She is our new spirituality chairperson, and she will lead the salute and the prayer, so use your prayer cards here.
Everybody stand. Salute to the cross. Unto the King eternal, immortal and invisible, the only God, forever. Amen. Prayer to Our Lady of Good Counsel. God of heavenly wisdom, you have given us Jesus to be our guide and counselor. Grant that we may always seek her motherly help in this life, and so enjoy her blessed presence in the world to come. O Mother of Good Counsel, patroness of the National Council of Catholic Women, intercede for us that we may be wise, courageous, and loving leaders of the Church. Help us, dear Mother, to know the mind of Jesus, your Son. May the Holy Spirit fill with us reverence for all. Amen. And may God's gift of faith and living hope prepare us for the fullness of the world to come. Amen. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We should have offered those prayers for Ginny and Jane, but I think Father already did a good job of calling our attention to that. Normally, we have you sign in, but your COVID sign-in is your sign-in. So if for some reason you didn't get your name on one of those COVID sheets, make sure you do it on your way out. That's our roll call. We emailed the minutes and the treasurer's report. We're trying to keep this meeting short because I don't know about you, but my ear already hurts from the elastic sitting through Mass, so these are not comfortable. However, Maggie has a little update on the treasurer's report that was sent out to you, and she is, in addition to being our treasurer, she is our wonderful parish tech genius, and she's going to tell you how to do everything that you used to be able to do on paper. Now you can just do it online.
Good morning, ladies. First, as Mary mentioned, we had sent out the treasurer's report and that the budget had been approved. There was a summary of last year's financials. Just yesterday, we sent out an update to the treasurer's report that just showed some additional funds that we had gotten since the original report went out. Our current balance is $6,800.82. Mostly, this has been done through the wonderful efforts that were made for our no-bake bake sale and our rummage-free rummage sale. The bake sale came to a total so far of $1,480, and the rummage sale was $3,598. So considering we didn't really have a rummage sale, those are fantastic numbers. Let's see what else. Now, as Mary mentioned, because we aren't going to be meeting and how everything's been going, technology has really helped these days, and we're able to do a lot of what we need to continue to do, one of which is collect our members' dues. And through the efforts of Monica in the office, We can now do that through the online giving. As you do your Sunday collections and whatnot through the online giving, she's got a line item in there now for the CCW dues. So you can either use your pink envelopes as you have been, or just put it in an envelope and stick it in the CCW box if you happen to be by the office, or you can do it now online. Okay. The other things, we normally would be asking for you to write down your service hours when you come to the meetings. If you go to our webpage on the website, okay, and if you haven't been there for a while, on the navigation bar, under ministries, our ministry is right there under community ministries, Council of Catholic Women. Our webpage has now been updated. There's a couple of different links. There was always one to get to our CCW brochure, PDF version of the brochure. Right next to that now is for online service hours reporting. If you click on that, you'll get to a form. You can list your service hours. It will ask you, what frequency you're doing that. You can do it weekly, you can do it on a monthly basis. Whatever period of time those service hours cover, there'll be a box underneath it for you to just say, as an example, week of September 8th, or month of May, or whatever those hours included, just mark that in there as well. And that will all be tabulated, and it would be an easier way to keep doing that, because you are still doing things throughout the parish that, we can report those as service hours to the diocese. The other thing that's on there, right on that same page, is if you would like to volunteer for either, we have some open positions, vice president, secretary. There's open positions for historian, hospitality, so on. If you'd like to help with Mary's Garden, Bread of Life, they're all listed there with little check boxes. You can mark which ones you would be interested in volunteering for. A little comment area if you just want to say, I'd like more information about these. You'd be listing your phone number, your email address. Just hit the submit button and someone will be contacting you. Okay, thank you very much.
I want to welcome all the people who are watching us online, who are being safe and staying home. Maggie is a good example of the volunteer hours that add up, because I guess I should apologize, because I know that the sync is off, and you can't tolerate watching and listening. You have to just listen. And of course, if you don't hear very well and you have to lip read, it drives you nuts. So we're aware of it and we're working on it. But and that's Beelzebub that's doing this. When our power pole fell, we were only 9 days without power because of all the people here who worked so hard. And then when lightning struck, Maggie was the one who personally packed up all of our equipment, sent it off to get it fixed, and set it all up again when it came back. And obviously there's still a glitch, but all of those hours that any service you do for the church, that counts. And it's really easy now to just go online and, once a day. If you think you're not going to remember at the end of the week, do it once a day. Normally we would do birthdays and anniversaries. I'm trying to cut this really short because of the masks that we have to wear. And normally we would spend a lot of time introducing new people. So I'm dispensing with the birthdays and the anniversaries, except today is Jerry Ann's birthday. So since it's on the very day, we need to wish her a happy birthday. Also, I guess I should mention, yesterday was the 32nd anniversary of the diocese, along with being Mary's birthday yesterday. But the new people, whether you're new to the parish or new to Fairfield Glade or just new to CCW, we want to see who you are so that the old people can chat with you afterwards. So if this is your first meeting, please stand up. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. And we will try not to pester you when it's too soon, but the trifold has all of our contact information in. When you are done being excited about being retired and you've played all the golf and the tennis that you need to play right away and you've got yourself settled and you want to get involved, contact any one of us. Any of these faces you see, just contact us and we will gladly put you to work. Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that I cover everything before we do need to have a vote on the officers. That's one thing we do need to vote on. So Judy had to go to work. She was here for Mass, but now she had to go to work. So the only two officers that we have right now, because we don't have a secretary and we don't have a vice president, is Maggie and I. So if you agree on us as officers, say aye. All righty, we have passed that. Okay, Lee is our Spirituality Commission chairperson, so I want her to come up and explain what that commission is all about.
Good morning. My name's Lee Glowacki, and I am very new to the Spirituality Commission. So I've been 2 years in the parish, and so I ask for everybody's prayers for this new role. I only have some brief things to say. Our goal in the Spirituality Commission for CCW at St. Francis is that we reinforce and support services to the church and to the world through discipleship and spiritual growth, and encourage legislative advocacy at the local, state, and national level, guided by Catholic social teachings or Catholic doctrines on human dignity and common good in our society, as started way back by Pope Leo XIII in 1891. That's how far that goes back. But due to our limited activities with the COVID virus, a lot of the things we do are curtailed. But it has also opened up a fuller use of our website and even heightened level of prayerful contemplation and reading of Catholic books and website materials. So we do what we can. If you are new to St. Francis, like I was 2 years ago, this parish is very, very rich with many wonderful resources, such as the CCW, to continue your spiritual development. What better intercession to help us but through Our Lady of Good Counsel?
Okay, and now Rosemary is going to come and explain how easy it is to sign up for a month for Mary's Garden.
Good morning, everybody. And if you don't know me, I am Rosemary Cowan. I think this is my 7th year here at this wonderful parish. And I have been heading up the volunteer schedule for Mary's Garden for the past, I think this is my 3rd year. It's usually a 2-year commitment, but I will probably continue to do it until I can't do it anymore, or if somebody really wants to jump in there and take over my job. So anyway, what I am asking is I need help for volunteers to clean, and I have a sheet here. And what you do is you pick a month that you might decide you want to clean our statue, which is out beyond the columbarium if people don't know where it's at. And you take a month. You could take a month all by yourself, or you could share it with another woman. And what you do is if you have the whole month, you only take one day of those 4 weeks, spend 15 to 20 minutes back at Mary's Garden to clean her and make her look beautiful. And if you don't know how to clean her, if you're unsure what to do, I am very happy to go out there and show you what to do. I have 10 more months to fill. Some nice ladies already came and signed up this morning. So I will be out in the foyer after the meeting with my sign-up sheet, and then I will post it on the back of our CCW bulletin board. And maybe I could, and you could go on to the online sign-up too, if you want to do it that way. I think that's it. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
The building and grounds people said they put water over there for us, but it's not real convenient, so it's a lot easier if you just bring a jug of, thermos bottle full of water from home, and bring your blower from home and your broom, and, just throw a few things in your car and go over there, and you can get it looking really good really fast. Okay, Gay has been doing the Leadership Commission for a very long time. So I'd like to introduce Gay. I'm sure everybody knows her.
Thank you, Mary. I don't know if you all noticed, but in the bulletin last weekend, I had a little article in there about all the help that we do need. And it's been alluded to by Father this morning at Mass. And of course, Mary, every speaker here this morning has told you we do need help. So I'll just tell you what we do need. And we are not meeting, we don't have a general meeting. This is our last one this year. But we do continue to meet as a board because we have work that we continue to do on behalf of the parish. We need a vice president. She will work with Mary, learn the job through Mary, and there are also there's also a lot of reading material that you can refer to. You will serve 2 years with Mary and then take on the presidency yourself. And we want you to know that whatever job you take, you are not alone. You don't take a job and you're out on a limb somewhere. We are a very cohesive unit, and we like to help each other. We also need a secretary. Our secretary was Jenny Schuster, but she's not well. And you take minutes at the meeting, at both the board meeting. No, you won't have any general meeting minutes, so you'll have just the board meeting minutes monthly. We just today have received a person to be a historian, and she's Pat Zimmerman. Pat, please stand. Thank you for helping. Thank you. She will take pictures and decorate the bulletin board out in the Sheehan Hall as much as she can, but nobody goes back there and looks anymore, so we'll see what happens. But it would be nice if we have pictures of events. We need a hospitality chairperson and a vice chair. Now you think we're not going to meet, so why would we need hospitality to make coffee and decorate the tables? Well, I don't want to have to hurry up and get a hospitality chair when we start meeting again. So I would ask now for someone who likes to do this kind of thing. You set up the tables, you decorate them, you have coffee made while we're having Mass, and all the people in the parish bring food, so you don't have to do this by yourself. You never have to do anything by yourself, but you can have a list of people to clean up, people to set up, people to serve. So it's a fun thing to do, actually. And I think that's about it. We need a program chairman. Program chairman. Now, we don't need that for this year, but like I say, I'd like to have you in line to take your position in September or whenever it is we get to meet again. And what you would do is plan the program, get a speaker, and introduce the speaker before she speaks. And it is a very important position because it is why people come to meetings. They want to hear a speaker. So if you would like to do that, There are resources for you for that also. And I will be in the hall, wherever out front, after Mass, after meeting, to help you to see if you would like to help, and you can ask me questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If you belong to the National Council of Catholic Women, Patty Johnson's picture was on the cover of the magazine, so we're very proud to have her as a member of our parish. She's our parliamentarian, and we have some important issues that she needs to talk to you about.
Thank you, Mary. One of the advantages of being a committee chair is you get a little mask break during the presentation, so you might want to consider that. I'm just going to say a few words about our bylaws and our standing rules. These are two documents that protect our organization and help us to be courteous and to follow certain goals and objectives so that we do what we're really supposed to do. As you know, we are, and in our bylaws it states that we are an affiliate of the Cumberland Mountain Deanery, the Knoxville Diocesan Council, and the National Council of Catholic Women. So we stand on the shoulders of all of those women in planning our programs and events too. We are going to make a few changes, and those we haven't quite got completed, but we have discussed them at our board meetings. And one of the main ones that we are changing is our fiscal year, and it will be changed from August 21st to August 20th, and that just goes in line better with our officers and all of that. We do address our membership, and we want everyone to know that all women of the parish are invited to be members of our Council of Catholic Women, and we hope that you will spread that word among your other friends that might not be here. Our standing rules address things that we don't put in bylaws because they can be changed much easier, and they have to do with contributions, gifts, meetings, decorations, things like that we do, but we do have guidelines for those, so it helps us to stay on track and to do what we're supposed to do. And just one other thing I wanted to mention today, kind of the order of the day, is that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops have proclaimed today as National Prayer Day for the end of racism. And I think they chose this day because it's the feast of St. Peter Claver. And as we heard in Mass today, he was a slave that did the work of Christ in many, many ways. So when you think about it, say a prayer for all of the turmoil that's going on in our nation right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen, you're going to be the one who talks, not Jerry Ann, right? Okay. All right. Kathleen Johnson is going to talk about service, which is kind of one of the main things that we have to keep doing, even though we can't eat, drink, and be merry and have our regular meetings. So, Kathleen Johnson.
Thank you, Mary. The Service Commission handles 4 main projects each year: Plateau Pregnancy Services. The first weekend in October, we hand out baby bottles to be filled with loose change or checks and to be returned by the first weekend in November. This money helps the organization support young women who are pregnant and in need of financial and emotional support and prevents abortions. They also accept donations of any items that would help a young mother, including furniture, toys, and clothing. Bread of Life Rescue Mission. 6 times a year, we ask 3 to 4 members to volunteer to plan a home-cooked meal for people staying at the mission in Crossville. We have suggested menus, or you can come up with your own plan. We serve the first Friday after the second Tuesday in January, March, May, July, September, and November. We would normally pass a basket for donations, so those preparing each meal may be reimbursed $80 if they do not wish to donate the food. As we should not be passing baskets at this time, there is a basket on the volunteer help table in the narthex. For future donations, Monica is working on adding this to the online giving. All money collected will go into the treasury, and our treasurer will collect your receipt and handle your reimbursement. One person will be designated to be in charge of the meal. She will remind the other volunteers and coordinate the meal plan. Cumberland County Habitat for Humanity helps those in need build a home, and they are required themselves to put in hundreds of hours of work. We attend the dedication ceremony and gift the new homeowner a kitchen wastebasket full of useful kitchen items. Ethel's Tree. The annual tradition begun by former parishioner Ethel Wagner. It provides less fortunate children in local elementary schools with needed personal items. Each year, Sharon Stevens and Terry Renault put up a small tree in the area of the gift shop by the back door. They provide a list of supplies requested by the schools and deliver them after the holiday recess. And also, as a reminder, wands for wildlife are still being collected, and that is your old mascara wands that you no longer need, and you wash them off, and there's a basket out there to put them in, and they need to be turned in by the end of September so that we can mail them out to the wildlife. Thank you. I have sign-ups out there for the Bread of Life and also for baby bottles, for standing by, because we can't hand them out, standing by the baby bottles the first weekend in October to ask people to please pick one up. There is a sign-up on that table out there. Okay, thank you.
And the box for the mascara wands is there now, but normally it's always been sitting in the kitchen. There's a cabinet in the kitchen marked CCW. That's for your purses. When we have meetings and you're doing things here and you don't know what to do with your purse, that's what that cabinet is for. And it's basically empty unless there's something going on. Well, the box for the mascara wands always sits in there. So when you come, they have to be clean, obviously, so you probably don't have one in your pocket to put in the basket right now, but that's where it is. Okay, Mary Vivian is the representative for the rummage sale, and I don't even, where, oh, okay.
Hello. For over 30 years, the women of this parish have had a rummage sale and generated a lot of money for donations. Our rummage sale funds our bake sale also is in there, generates the funds for our charitable giving. And we had been very accomplished at that until March of 20. And so this year we had to cancel our rummage sale and disperse of all of the good, beautiful things that we had collected. And that has been accomplished. We have now set the date with our trust in the Lord and our faith that we will be able to have our rummage sale in 2021. And we will begin setup on April 17th That's when the knights are so wonderful to help set up all those heavy tables for us. And then on Sunday the 18th, we will be moving all of our wares from the rectory basement, which we hope we can fill up again with all your wonderful things that you just can't use anymore, and you will gift them to us for our sale. And that will be on Sunday the 18th, that we'll be moving that from the rectory basement to Sheehan Hall. And then on Monday, we really need your help. We'll be working Monday through Thursday. On Monday, it looks like the biggest junk pile that you've ever seen. And by Thursday, we look like a high-class department store. Everything is where it should be. Clothing is sized. We're very proud of how we present our rummage sale wares. And our sale then starts at 9 o'clock on Friday the 23rd, and we're open until 3. And then on Saturday morning, we have our $2 bag day. But again, we are finished with that by noon on Saturday, actually 11 o'clock, because by noon we walk out and no one can ever tell anything went on in this place. Sheehan Hall is back spick and span, clean and organized, and as the rest of it. So as you can tell, it takes a lot of people working, but we have so much fun. And it's a wonderful way to meet the other ladies of the parish, but we laugh a lot, probably at ourselves, but no matter, we have a good time. So we really, really need your volunteer hours. We can take 1 hour or the whole day, whatever you have that particular day, Monday through Thursday, working Friday and Saturday. All day Friday, our ladies are constantly refolding all of the clothing that the wonderful people who come to buy look at, and obviously they have to find a size. So our ladies are out in Sheehan resizing, reorganizing. We work really hard, we have a great time, and we do generate quite a bit of money. This year, from our wonderful parish volunteer money, I believe it's about $3,500 that we have, and that's less than half what we generally generate for our support of all of our missions and our other causes. So just like everyone else, we need your time, but come and have fun with us. That's the biggest thing. April 17th is first set up. Sale dates are the 23rd and 24th, but we'll be working that week. So, thank you. Sharon, did you have a question? We changed the date. We just thought it was better to give ourselves even that extra week's time, so.
Okay, the trifold that's online doesn't have Ann Hall's name. She's going to be working with Mary Vivian. Oh, man. Okay, well, I already put her information on my version, but Maggie doesn't have it online yet, so I guess that's a good thing. But I'll change the date so that the trifold that's online has the correct date. Sharon, Kathleen already mentioned Ethel's Tree. Sharon Stevens is going to tell you about Ethel's Tree, and she also does the bake sale.
Okay, I'm Sharon Stevens, and I co-chair the bake sale and the Ethel's Tree along with Terry Renaud, who is not able to be here. Oops, sorry. Anyway, we'd like to thank everybody who has given their support throughout this coronavirus thing, with everything being canceled. The bake sale has now been rescheduled for next July 2nd. We'll be asking for volunteers to make calls in June to solicit baked goods or monetary donations, distribute posters at various businesses, and help with the actual selling of the baked goods. And of course, baking, very important part of bake sale. Okay, and we're still planning on having the Ethel's Tree project later this year with a collection period of November 6th through December 10th. We'll be contacting the various schools in the next month or so to see what their needs are this year. We contact the guidance counselors and the nurses, and they provide us with a list of critical items that are needed by the student body. Items often include basic hygiene products, shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, as well as simple clothing outfit items like basic t-shirts that could be girl or boy, little stretch pants or stretch pants or sweatshirts or whatever. Unfortunately, the schools only have a meager fund for these items, and the need is great. So our support is sorely needed. We generally deliver the items to the schools in January when they reopen after their Christmas break. So again, we want to thank you for your support for these two essential projects, and we know you'll continue to help support these projects. Thanks again, Sharon Stevens and Terry Renaud.
And our last board member is Ruth Hill, and she is going to tell you what she does in the Sunshine area.
Thank you, Mary. As she said, my name is Ruth Hill, and I am the Sunshine Lady. I send birthday, Easter, Christmas cards to the ladies of the parish when they are listed on the prayer list in the bulletin, the home visits from Mary Ellen's team, and those in the nursing homes. I also send cards to our sponsored seminarian, to our pastor, and to the music director. If the names on these lists is male, the wife or the significant other will get a card and a thinking of you card because they are the caregiver and need our support. When a female parishioner dies, the husband or significant other gets a sympathy card. When a male parishioner dies, the wife or significant other gets followed for 1 year with a birthday, Easter, and Christmas card. Sympathy cards are also sent when a parent, sister, brother, or child of a parishioner dies. Thinking of you and get well cards are sent when I'm notified at a board meeting or a general meeting or by phone or email that there is a need. My name and email address are listed in the CCW trifold, and I am in the parish directory. I also send out 2 or 3 times a year cards to new female parishioners, welcoming them to the parish and inviting them to join us at our next monthly meeting. And I'm hoping some of you new people that stood up got those cards. I get these names from the parish office. I share this list with other CCW chairs as they request them. And for today's meeting, I sent out 20 invitations to new members. In the last fiscal year that just ended, I mailed out 469 cards. The majority of the cards, and sometimes stamps, are donated by parishioners. We usually have to purchase Easter cards, but these and stamps come out of our budget. And that's all I have. Any questions? Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's a good thing they had a big party last year. It's difficult for them to celebrate this year. Okay, Father is our speaker, and I want to make a presentation. Father, please come up before he starts. This was the, yes? when you're relatively new, like I am still relatively new, I'm always surprised to learn who past presidents were, because they're people who are still here and still active, but I didn't know they were really active in CCW before I came. So, Father, this year was the 100th birthday of NCCW, but of course the convention was canceled. But this is a pin that I want to present. Father is not only our spiritual advisor, but also the spiritual advisor for the Cumberland Mountain Deanery. And this is the letter that came with the pin. Dear Father Woods, please accept my sincere appreciation for your gift of $1,000, which is the total pledge amount for birthday club participants. And the CCW gave that $1,000 in Father's name. This group was an idea that I had to ensure that funds would be generated so that NCCW could reach the significant milestone of 100 years of service to God and the church in 2020. Your support of NCCW with your treasure is truly a testament to those committed to the ideals embodied in our mission statement, to educate, empower, and support women in spirituality, leadership, and service. March 4th is the official birthday, as it is on that date in 1920 that the U.S. bishops called a meeting of up to 3 women representatives from each diocese named by each bishop, and 1 representative from each of the 200-plus existing women's groups around the country. At this meeting, the first NCCW Constitution and bylaws were developed. What a heritage we have, as documented in our history book. The first 75 years, now available in Kindle and on Amazon. Of course, we have to do the advertising. So there's your pin.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Am I on now?
You're on now.
Oh my gosh.
I apologize, it's warm in here.
I asked them to put on the air conditioning. Okay, so if you have a sweater, I'll put on this a little later. They asked me a long time ago to be the speaker at this particular meeting. When they asked me, we didn't have COVID-19. And what I would like to talk to you about is kind of the experience, some of the experiences that I had. Because of COVID-19, I couldn't go home to Ireland, which I normally would be and have done nearly every year for 54 years. That's how I would spend my summer vacation, because all my family are, except my sister, Madeline, who's in, where is it? Close to Michigan City, Long Beach. Is that what it is? Long Beach and Michigan, close to Michigan City. And anyway, COVID-19 came along, and I didn't want to be doing 2 weeks quarantine when I went to Ireland. Anybody coming from the United States going into Europe has to do 2 weeks quarantine. And I was looking forward to 2 week quarantine when I'd come back. But anyway, I decided, okay, I'll do something that I've never done before and have wanted to do, but felt obligated to go home to my family. My mother lived until she was 97. As I oftentimes say, we had to shoot her. So, and so I was always in deference to my mother that I would go home and my brothers and sisters. And we're a very close family, and it's always a great time. So I didn't know really what I was going to do. But I knew, like many people say, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I planned that I would catch up on some folks. I told you this at Mass, but I'll go through this part quickly. Caught up on many friends that I had in the Atlanta diocese, because I was there for 23 years. And it was there that I, in a sense, had my first taste of CCW. I met some of you at some of the first meetings that I went to as a very young priest, and have been associated with CCW since then. I visited my family up in Chicago and stayed with one of the priests because my brother-in-law had COVID, and my sister was looking after him, and she then got COVID, and so I didn't go to their house, and so I stayed with the priest, Father Larry, in Chicago. Interestingly enough, I went walking down towards the lake in Chicago on this particular day and walked down all the streets in that area. And that night, everything was looted in all the places where I was, and there were riots and all that sort of thing. I also have a nephew who belongs to the police force in Chicago, and he was out there on the lines listening to what was being said, and at the same time doing his duty, and at the same time realizing that something has to happen. We really need to address things that aren't being addressed, and talking with him, and that was part of it. But the part that I really would like to tell you about is the time when I decided what I'd do is I'd rent a car, because it would be a little bit bigger than mine, but also I've got $100,000 on mine. Modern cars, that's not very much, but I just didn't want to run the risk of breaking down. I decided I'd go on my own and head out to the Midwest and to some of the national parks up there. And my plan was to get an air mattress and put that in the back of the car and take all the supplies that I would need, and I would sleep in my car and travel. And it was probably one of the best decisions that I've ever made, and I would say it was the freest I ever felt in my life. I planned to listen to my radio and all that sort of thing, and this XM thing, but God had other plans because it didn't work. And so I was by myself, with myself. I wasn't catching up on the news and seeing what was happening in the country and getting caught up in everybody else's anxiety, which is legitimate. But what we really realize at the same time is it's still the same when we get back. And that every day we waste so much energy in trying to fix it. But that's all right. That's another part of the story. Somebody sent me a little thing this week, which I had already seen, but and smiled at it and let it go. And I think it's a good introduction to my smorgasbord that I'm going to give you today. And it is, a while back, I read a story of a visiting pastor who attended a men's breakfast in the middle of a rural farming area of the country. You remember this? The group had asked the old farmer, decked out in bib overalls, to say grace for the morning breakfast. And he began, "Lord, I hate buttermilk," the farmer began. Visiting pastor opened one eye to glance at the farmer and wonder, where is this going? The farmer loudly proclaimed, "Lord, I hate lard." Now the pastor was growing concerned, and without missing a beat, the farmer continued, "And Lord, you know how I don't care for raw white flour." The pastor once again opened the eye, glanced around the room, and saw that he wasn't the only one beginning to feel uncomfortable. And then the farmer added, "But Lord, when you mix them all together and bake them, I do love warm, fresh biscuits. So Lord, when things come up that we don't like, when life gets hard, when we don't understand what you're saying to us, help us to just relax and wait until you're done mixing. It will probably be even better than biscuits. Amen." And what I'm going to do, I wasn't on vacation. I was in an experience. That's the best way that I can kind of describe what happened. I didn't know where I was going, really, except that way. I didn't know what would happen, how I'd be able to adjust or accommodate. I had absolutely no idea of the vastness of this country. You know, usually we were traveling by plane and jumping from here to there and everywhere. And when you imagine somebody on horseback or with a wagon crossing the United States with family and wondering where they were going, that was the beginning of my sense. But I'll tell you a lovely story that I came across when I came back. And it was because I was talking to my brother, Kevin, and I was telling him that I was up in, I went up through Michigan, into Wisconsin, into North Dakota, into Montana, down to Wyoming, into South Dakota. You see, I know my geography now. Yeah, didn't have a clue where these places were. I knew they were up there, up north. And I was telling him where I was, and my brother Kevin is very interested in so many things, and he says, "Oh, wow, you were up in the Indian reservation territory." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I sent some money there recently." I says, "Oh, really? What's that all about?" And he says, "Well, there was a story in the newspapers in Ireland just recently associated with COVID-19. And I'm looking for the date. In 1847, the Choctaw Nation, it's one of the Indian tribes, sent $170 to the famine victims in Ireland who were struggling with the Irish famine, worth about $5,000. About 10 years before, this tribe had been moved from the territories or the states of Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida on the Trail of Tears, out of their homelands through 500 miles and then arrived at the reservation. And at that time, there was a lot of crisscrossing of the country, and they learned from an Irish soldier about the plight of the Irish people also being oppressed. And I don't know whether you know this or not, but the Irish famine, or the Ireland of Ireland, had 4 times enough food to feed all the people of Ireland at that time. But in the name of trade, it was all exported by the British to its colonies. And during that period of time, 1 million people in Ireland starved to death, and 3 million emigrated. And this is the scene that I'm telling you about right now, just that background. And this tribe found out about the plight of the Irish people and sent $170. Well, during COVID-19, that story reached the Irish papers again. It was revived because that particular reservation was suffering terribly from COVID-19. And you know the way in social media, there is a thing, GoFundMe. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah, GoFundMe. Well, the Irish people learned about this, and there is a monument that has been there since, I think, 1919 in Cork, County Cork, Ireland, recalling that donation by the Choctaw tribe to the people of Ireland, and there is a monument there. And that story also got into the papers, because you know how history happens, and the Irish people would have forgotten about that all over the place. But for a long period of time, there has been this relationship between County Cork, where the monument, where the legend is, and that tribe. And even the chief went there. They recently put together a monument, which is all circular feathers, silver feathers. That's the monument that's there, recalling that moment. And as a response to that, through social media and the Irish papers, over $1 million was sent to the tribe. And up to now, worldwide, $6 million has been sent to that reservation. And it's just amazing sometimes to see the little tiny threads that are oftentimes woven in lives, not in big pictures, but to realize that even now, in the middle of this COVID-19, in the middle of riots, in the middle of injustices, in the middle of politics, in the middle of religion, there is a thread being woven which is the core and the purity of where it is that we're supposed to arrive. All the other stuff is going to happen. It's going to happen. Why? That's why God sent Jesus. Because we're not good people. And that doesn't mean there isn't goodness in us. Jesus sees sin in us. And he sent Jesus to save us. And then when we listen to the messages of Jesus, as I mentioned at Mass this morning, for those of you at Mass, the message of Jesus is unbelievably simple. But we complicate it because we have needs, we have concerns, we have fears, we have doubts, we have all this stuff in the midst of kindness and generosity and magnanimity, and it's all there. It's all there. And the magnanimity and the greatness and the beauty and the generosity are all gifts from God. They're not ours. They're all gifts. And it's because we get it all mixed up that, thanks be to God, God never loses sight of us. And so my brother reminded me that he saw the story and put his hand in his pocket and sent whatever it was, just like you do, just like you do. But at the same time, just like you do, we have all kinds of stuff churning inside us too that's not so hot either. And it's to have that kind of humility of a need for God. So as I went on my way, there's a couple of things that really jumped out at me. Was I didn't know where I was going. And there was a tremendous gift given to me the whole time I was there, and they're called rest stops. It's one, I never knew it before, but it's one of the beautiful gifts of hospitality in our country. That somehow or another, if you're stuck, if you need a drink, if you need to go to the toilet or the restroom, if you need to stop and sleep, our taxes pay for these things to make sure that people have this little bit of hospitality, and boy, did I take advantage of it. I stopped, I made it a point to say I would always be off the road by 8 o'clock. That was just my own. The other thing, I didn't realize how vast the country is. I also promised myself that never would I let my tank of gas go below half. Okay. Why? Because the distances to the next gas station is hundreds of miles. So I had peace of mind recognizing that as I would go through the states, or even every so many miles, that I'd find rest stops. And they became my best friend. My best friend. It was also at the rest stop. I also knew, which I do anyway, much more so now than I used to. You know, I have grown myself as a priest, and what priesthood is even, and what my responsibility is as a priest. Primarily, it's to say Mass. That's what a priest is. You've often heard me say I get into an elevator and I meet somebody from the South and they get in and say, "Are you a preacher?" Well, I always say yes, because I don't want to go into the theology of priesthood, et cetera, et cetera. But I have to say that, especially on this trip, but many other trips, I say Mass and celebrate the Eucharist. And you're all there. But not only are you all there, but the whole world is there. the whole world, whatever is going on, just is what Jesus told us to do. So at the rest stops, I would pull in, and there'd be loads of trucks, as I mentioned on Sunday, loads of trucks, and there'd be some holiday makers or people passing through and whatever. I'd pick up my spot, and I realized I was gone on the road probably for over a week when I was just on this one. The other thing were various other places that I was. And I had more than enough to accommodate me for my needs. When we pack and go on vacation or whatever, we always pack far more than we actually need. But that's what I learned. And I just stop at 8 o'clock. I'd be tired, get into the back of the wagon or whatever it was. Nissan Moreno was the size of the car that I had. And it was enough. I slept like a baby every night. It was just fantastic. But then I would waken up round about 6 or 7, and the very first thing that I would do would be say my rosary and try and get myself ready for Mass, because I'd have read the readings and whatever. But what was fantastic on this trip, because it was an experience, is that wherever I was, the readings, I took them with me, and I'm only going to indicate 2 of them that happened. But every day, the readings would be associated with where I was and what had happened there, and the kind of attitudes that we're supposed to have about what happens and all those kinds of things. And my Masses, oh, they were just wonderful. They were beautiful. My sermons were fantastic, and they were long. But what they were, and over the time, and maybe even now, what you're getting will be my reflections really on what happened and what was going on, because there was nothing out there to see other than what everybody else saw. But because I was at Mass, and because of the readings, I found myself, like, say, the very first place that I stopped, it was up in Fargo, was the first place that I stopped. And many trucks, and I'm getting myself ready for Mass. And what I would do is I would read all the readings before Mass and reflect on them and think of them, and then I'd go to Mass. And I realized how powerful the Mass is. These people who are working their everyday life, working hard, going from here to there, families doing what they do, in and out to the restroom, washing up, cleaning up, doing all those kinds of things. And I have to say, I noticed, and I would do this on my trip, I noticed people coming in and cleaning the bathrooms, and I would give them a big tip. And I say, what are you doing? And he said, you don't need to do that. I'm not telling you this somehow or another because I did this, but these were things that were cropping up, and I was noticing that wow, somebody is in there cleaning the bathroom for me before I come in. Wow, what a gift. And the sense is, well, they get a salary like everybody else, but I just wanted to show my gratitude. And he says, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I said, no, I don't. But I just want you to know how grateful I am for you being out here, not knowing me, and still doing this work, and that you're doing a fantastic job. Just that. And the very first place I stopped was the truckers, and I'm saying Mass, and I'm looking out the window of my car as I'm saying Mass and the prayers of the faithful. And I'm saying, and I don't mean it in a righteous way. By the way, when I talk, I might cry, okay? Because I was deeply touched by much of what I saw. And I'm thinking, and I don't mean this in a righteous way, I'm thinking, nobody right out here knows that Mass is going on. And I don't mean that I should get out and say, hey, boy, everybody should be knowing Mass is going on. I knew Mass was going on. And that they don't know that the love of God is over them right now, deeply concerned about each one, And so I prayed for the truckers. I told you many times I'm on the road and I cuss those guys out. And somebody came up to me the other day and said, Father, yeah, my father was a truck driver, and I still cuss them out, he says, especially when they're going up a hill and they're two on each lane. You can't get past them. They're going 25 miles an hour. Yeah, we cuss them out. But it's just an indication sometimes of how possessive we are of our own little space, and that somebody might interfere with them and do all those kinds of things. And I told you it was an experience. So just saying Mass and just realizing that, and that I was being given Eucharist, not so much, oh boy, aren't you nice and holy, but pray for these people. This is what Jesus did. He went off up into the mountain and he looked down and he saw the whole world and he saw generations and he saw nobody knows about the Father, but he came. So it was a kind of a spiritual journey. The next place that I got to as I went through North Dakota, oh my gosh. Wide open country. I would say if there was somebody with me, they would have been bored to tears. But I didn't have them to account. Why? Because it's a long distance with nothing, absolutely nothing but sameness, the vastness of the country. And there would be huge farms. I know you know these things, but I was just taken by them. I was in what I was doing. And again, gratitude for the farmers that are out there just working the land, and the loneliness that must be up there, and especially in the winter. No wonder you all come down south. But the first place that I stopped, I hope, and then I will show you what happened there. After that, I came to Billings. I think, is that Montana? Okay, good. You keep my geography going here. And the first place I spent the night, and this was my first experience of the plains, and I found myself going into a sense. I told you one of the things that I did was also went to Lincoln's thing. Let me just see. Hold on a second. Yeah. Come on. And the first place that I stopped, I read this sign. You probably know about it. In 1876, this was strictly buffalo and Indian country. That was the first thing that struck me unbelievably. And it took me, which is what happened to me really for the rest of the trip, it took me into a whole experience of another way of life at another time, when where I was surrounded by millions of buffalo, and a way of life belonging to Native Americans before we even set foot on the land. But in 1876, it was strictly buffalo and Indian country. In 1876 to 1881, the U.S. rounded up the Indians and forced them into the reservations, while buffalo hunters cleared the range for the cattle boom of the 80s. And of course, Washington was here before then and all that, but we're coming into more modern time in a sense when there was a big change. Pierre Wilbeau ran one of the biggest cattle spreads around here in the early days. A native of France, he arrived in Montana in 1883, and after studying the cattle industry from calf to packing house, within a decade of his arrival, he had amassed a herd of 65,000 cattle and prospered from business investments throughout the region. Wilbeau had boundless optimism for his adopted state, and once said, "If a man is intelligent, has courage, and can see things clearly, he can make money." And through his guidance, the wide-open town of Mingusville was renamed Wilbeau and became a significant cattle and sheep shipping. When Wilbeau died in 1913, his will provided a fund to erect a statue of himself in the town named for him. And From this end of Montana to the west is just about the same distance from New York to Chicago. You have to push a lot of ground behind you to get to places in this state. When I read that, I knew that I was kind of in something that I didn't know, and it was about our beloved country and its journey, and that it mustn't be forgotten. And I knew I was remembering. And I came to Mass that morning, and I had a great sense, I don't know why or how or whatever, but again, the Mass and I don't want to make myself holier than thou, but the Mass somehow, for me, on this trip was a link to everything that was going on. And I went to Mass that morning aware that another life was gone. It was completely wiped out by injustice, by taking advantage, but also people looking for a future and hoping to make good people wanting to make their way and whatever, but in the meantime, but anyway, I came to Mass, and this was the reading of the Mass, and the vastness of what I could see around me. I can't tell you how far I could see. The hand of the Lord came upon me, and he led me out in spirit of the Lord, and he set me in the center of the plain. When I read that, just those words, which were now filled with bones. And he made me walk among the bones in every direction, so that I saw how many there were on this plain, how dry they were. And he asked me, Son of man, can these bones come back to life? I answered, Lord God, you alone know that. And then he said to me, prophesy over these bones and say to them, dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. And so this says the Lord, see, I will bring spirit into you, that you may come back to life. I will put sinews on your bones, your dead bones, and I will make flesh grow over you, and I'll cover you with skin, and put a spirit in you, so that you may come to life and know that I am the Lord. I prophesied as I had been told, and even as I was prophesying, I heard a voice. It was a rattling as the bones came together, bone joining bone. I saw the sinews and the flesh come over them, and the skin cover them, but there was no spirit in them. And then the Lord said to me, prophesy, Son of man, and say to the Spirit, thus says the Lord, from the four winds, O Spirit, come and breathe into these slain, that they may come back to life. I prophesied as he told me, and the Spirit came into them, and they came alive, and they stood upright, a vast army. And then he said to me, Son of man, these are the bones of the whole house of Israel. They have been saying, our bones are dried up, our hope is lost, and we're cut off. Therefore, prophesy and say to them, O my people, I will open your graves, and I'll have you rise from them, and I'll bring you back. And then you shall know that I am the Lord when I open your graves and have you rise from them. When I read that, and I was in my car, again, nobody anywhere aware that this little deed of my own, I believe by the Spirit of God, not because Mike Woods is a great guy, but that God said, Woods, I need you not to let this die, because they're not dead. I have seen it. I have known it. It's why I came. I will breathe into all this dead and new life, and I'll bring it back. And that was a kind of the indication when I was finished Mass. Probably took about an hour, by the way, and there was only one for communion. But it was an experience that I think I was picked up from Fairfield Glade, and because of COVID, and sent out there to talk to God about a people in a sense, forgotten. And it wasn't, and I prayed at that Mass. I prayed for the homesteaders. I prayed for the people who were in representing the military, who were sent out to wipe out and to clear. And I prayed for a reconciliation and for the Native Americans who were in a small plot and a land over there. And that my vacation was somehow God picking me up, putting me down there. Nobody else would know anything about it, but God knew. And that the power of Jesus from the cross, looking out over the centuries, the beginning of creation, and desiring to put a spirit into them so that everybody would be reconciled and claim each other as belonging to each other. That was that. Another little experience I had, which I found again amazing, it was in a little small city called Sioux Falls. Anybody know Sioux Falls? Yeah. Okay. Well, when I went into Sioux Falls, there was a little museum there. It wasn't too far, I think, away from that motorcycle place where they had the rally and everything else like that. I didn't go near it, but I went into a little museum where I saw all those old motorcycles that they once upon a time built, and it was lovely. It was just lovely to be in there and to see how people said, we can't let this die, we've got to keep this alive, and that. But when I came out, I have to get this. I'm not very good at these things, but we'll see. But this was another amazing experience for me that I really, once again, think God wanted me to see and do something about it. Let's see. I hope I can find it. Oh, as I just went through it, I went into a cathedral there in Sioux Falls, and on the outside of the cathedral, I think it was Sioux Falls, there were two cathedrals I went to. But anyway, wherever it was, I saw this on the wall, and I says, oh my God, I'm going to tell the people of this to Fairfield Glade. And a great motto, by the way, for anybody but the CCW. It's just an angel standing over two children. And it said, child of God, live this day as if it were your first day, as if it were your last day, as if it were your only day. And the day that I went in there, there's the same old thing. I went into the cathedral, and right inside the door of that cathedral was a statue of St. Patrick. Okay? And it was the 15th of August, and obviously the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into Anna. Went into this most gorgeous chapel, and it was beautiful, beautiful sculpture, I think in bronze, and it was the Holy Spirit and sending down his light, and on this side is the Father, and on this side is the Son, and both of them are putting a crown over our Blessed Mother Mary, humbly bent beneath them, and it was beautiful. Just after looking at that. Please help me to find this. Okay, come on. I don't know how to do these things. Yeah, I got it. It was in the county of Minnehaha. Yeah, okay. I had heard Minnehaha when I was a kid. Okay, whatever. But it was in the county of Minnehaha, and let me see if I can read this for you, because here it is. Hope we can get it. Yeah. Early day justice in many. Oh, by the way, I stopped at every darn legend that would be stuck on the road with. I stopped at every single one. I said, "What's going on here? What happened here? What happened here?" Well, this was one of them. Early day justice in Minnehaha County, Dakota Territory, overlooked innocence when gallows were erected near this site for the hanging of Thomas Egan, a pioneer immigrant farmer from County Tipperary in Ireland. Egan settled in Dakota in 1876. Egan was arrested, then convicted, and hanged for causing the death of his wife, Mary. She was murdered in September 1880 on the family homestead farm, 20 miles northwest of Sioux Falls. She was found in the cellar of that sod home, dead from a bloody beating. The suspicion of neighbors, which promptly spread through the community, centered on Egan. He was immediately taken into custody and placed in jail in Sioux Falls, where he remained until the hanging. Many years later, a surprising revelation would prove the complete innocence. Mary Van Lyons, and when I'm reading this, I'm thinking immediately, I'm Old West. I'm standing here. I'm looking at a town, small, incensed by this murder. And they know who the killer is. And they are going to get justice. That's where I am when I'm standing reading this. Mary Van Lyons was a widow with a 5-year-old daughter, Catherine, when she married Egan. In 1866, at Madison, Wisconsin, they married. They had 3 sons, Sylvester, John, and Tommy. I'm reading this. Hey, this is just family life. Hard, but family life. People doing the best they can. They were born to Thomas and Mary before Catherine rejoined the household in Dakota. Soon thereafter, on November 1879, Catherine married a neighbor, James Van Horn. And during the trial, James and Catherine testified for the prosecution, a fact which angered Egan greatly. I got to turn my page here. When the day of sentencing arrived, Territorial Judge Jefferson Kidder asked Egan if he had anything to say. With an angry scowl, he replied, "Judge, I have nothing against anybody in the court or anybody around the country except the Van Horns. They betrayed me, and may the curse of God be upon them. I can stand it, sir. The law may not reach the Van Horns, but the curse of God will." Catherine Van Horn lived 45 years with the words of her stepfather ringing in her ears. On June the 3rd, 1927, on her deathbed at the age of 65 in Seattle, Washington, she confessed that she had killed her mother. She wrote, "Back in South Dakota in the early 18s, I killed my mother. We quarreled, and I hit her again and again over the head until she died." I'm sure she was angry at her mother for leaving her behind and then starting a family and then going for her. I don't know. Nobody knows, but it's life. No one ever suspected me. My stepfather, Thomas Egan, was hung for the crime, and he died vowing his innocence. It took 3 drops from the hangman's trapdoor on July 13, 1882, to end the life of Thomas Egan. On the first drop, the rope broke, and Egan was carried back to the platform. On the second drop, a deputy inadvertently broke Egan's fall, and the hanging man was dragged to the stand on a trapdoor for the 3rd time. Following the 3rd time, the official physician declared him dead. The next day, I said Mass, and I prayed for Thomas Egan and his wife Mary and his stepdaughter Catherine, and for James, whoever it was, the other name. And again, my sense was that I was sent there. And I went over to roughly where the tree was, and I put my hand on that tree, and I said, "My Our Father, and my Hail Mary, and my glory be to the Father." Because God does not want these things to be forgotten. But not just forgotten and condemned, but remembered and reconciled. That's the work. And I think I was called to do that. Let me, something else, things that I went to. I went to the National Park of Yellowstone, and again, there was nothing in Yellowstone that I hadn't seen in Ireland. Only in Ireland, you have to be standing right up beside it, and that's when it looks big. For hundreds and hundreds of miles, I was seeing this scene that looked like Ireland, but it took me hundreds of miles to get to it. And when I got to it, my God, it was awe-inspiring. It was beautiful, and I saw all the things that people see. I saw the wild animals, and I saw the buffalo, and I saw the sheep, the sheep, and I saw the little characters on the ground what do you call them? Prairie dogs. I saw the prairie dogs, and I didn't see any bear and whatever. And it was just, I knew I was in it again. It was just beautiful. And the Psalms that I was reading at Mass was talking about God's creation and the wonder of it, and to be able to see it. I went to see also a place called the Devil's Tower. And what I liked about the Devil's Tower, it's this huge, massive, it's the first national park monument, I believe, in the nation. The very first declared a national monument. And when you get up close, it's just this big outcropping tower going right up into the sky. And but when I got to it, there was a legend on the side of the road there, and it said something like, people saw this and went, but the Indian legend associated with it, I loved. Because when you get up close to it, there's kind of lines and markings all the way around it. I'm sure it's water pouring over it. But the legend of the Indians was that that there were 3 little girls that they got trapped by a bear, and a bear was attacking them, and they climbed up on this rock to get safe, but the bear was climbing the rock, and they prayed to the gods to save them. And suddenly the rock got up and got up and got up, and that the marks down the tower are the marks of the bear trying to whatever. And the 3 kids were taken up into heaven and became one of the constellations that is up there. But I just loved it, and it was beautiful. The thing that I loved also was I went to Mount Rushmore. I went to Mount Rushmore, and Mount Rushmore is Mount Rushmore. You go, you see it, you've seen photographs of it. There's nothing really to see except that it's up there, and it's an amazing accomplishment. What was the name of the guy? Gutzon Borglum. But anyway, I saw there was a schedule of talks that were going to be given, and it was packed out. It was packed with visitors, and not everybody was wearing a mask either, but it was packed with visitors. And I went and I looked for the schedule of lectures, and thanks be to God I did, because it was one of the highlights of my trip. Not so much what I saw, but what I heard, and it was new to me. And I found a lecturer, and there were probably about 20 people standing around listening. And the lecturer was terrific. And I won't have my dates already, but what I heard was amazing. First of all, that when we talked about the treaties and the American Indians and the reservations and that sort of thing, and they were all rounded up and placed up into that area. And there was a treaty made that this particular territory would belong to them, to the Native Americans, and that people would have access to move here, there, and anywhere. The cattle farms would grow and whatever. But anyway, there was this guy called, and that treaty was 1857 or something else like that. And this guy, Gutzon Borglum, he had, I think, done some other work, but he was a maverick and an opportunist and whatever. But, what's the name? President, I'll think of him in a minute. But he was the president, and he wanted to say, listen, I can really make a name for you, and I can put your writings right up there on Mount Rushmore, et cetera, and when he heard that he would be glorified, I'll tell you his name in a minute. And man, he says, let's go. And they went out and they raised an awful lot of money to get his words put up there. I wish I could think of his name just for a second. And raised a lot of money, but then the Depression came. And when the Depression came, all the money went. And so the whole plan went down the drain. And anyway, they came back, and he kept pushing his thing, and who's going to go up there and whose face? Well, it's very easy to see maybe Washington and Lincoln. And then the next two you weren't sure. But what I got interested in is that she told me, because I went to see her afterwards and talk with her, and she seemed delighted that I would ask the questions. I said, listen, you were talking about the treaty. Was the treaty ever ratified? And he says, yes, it was ratified. But then gold was discovered in the Dakotas, the Black Hills gold, and Mount Rushmore was right in the middle of the territory belonging to the Native Americans. Okay, and in order to allow the settlers to move into the gold, they pushed the boundaries back so that they could get to the gold. Okay, and in pushing them back, this outcrop of land, Mount Rushmore, was given to the government by this treaty in order to put up the monument and at the same time give access to the gold. Anyway, it became a controversy, and as a result, the government went to the chiefs of the Indians to say, we will buy this land from you. And they offered them $2 billion, and they wouldn't take it. So the land belonged to the Indians. And so they did get a treaty signed, but the way that they got the treaty signed was that they starved the Indians out until the leaders would come forward and sign some kind of a document. And that second treaty, to validate it, was taken to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court validated the first treaty, so that Mount Rushmore still belongs to the Indians. But it hasn't been, the settlement hasn't been made or whatever. But those things, again, I came to Mass and I read, but I'll tell you my last little one, because you'll get tired listening to me. And I can't put it really all into words, but I mentioned about the rest stops and seeing life, and it's going on and nobody knows. And I woke up this morning, again, seeing who's all around me, and I realized that many of the homeless people will use the rest stops, and they have a car or they have a van, but they will sleep in their van or in their car and whatever. And I saw this man particularly getting up in the morning, and it was getting cool. It was getting cool, and I saw him getting out of the car, and I saw him putting on one pair of trousers, and then he put on another pair of trousers, and then he put on a shirt, and then he put on a sweater, and then he put on a coat, and he took out whatever food that was there for him, and he ate it, and I saw him put his cup of coffee on the top of the car, and it was obviously, he got it somewhere or whatever, but it was obviously hot, and I see him driving out of the thing with the coffee still on the top. He's probably cooling it. Okay, so I saw that, and it was just amazing. Again, here am I, and I'm just about to celebrate Mass, and this was the reading that was on that morning. Jesus again, in reply, spoke to the chief priests and the elders of the people in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. He dispatched his servants to summon the invited guests to the feast, but they refused to come. And a second time he sent other servants, saying, 'Tell those invited, behold, I have prepared my banquet. My calves, the fatted cattle are killed. Everything is ready. Come to the feast.' Some ignored the invitation and went away, one to his farm, one to his business. The rest laid hold of his servants, mistreating them, and killed them. The king was enraged and sent his troops, destroying those murderers, and burned the city. And then the king said to his servants, "The feast is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy to come. Go out, therefore, into the main roads and invite to the feast whomsoever you find." And the servants went out into the streets and gathered all they found, bad and good alike, and the hall was filled with guests. But when the king came in to meet the guests, he saw a man there not dressed in a wedding garment, and said, "My friend, how is it that you came in here without a wedding garment?" But he was reduced to silence. And at that Mass, again, I felt that I was called to gather in and tell the good news to the riffraff and to the nobodies and to those who wonder if they even belong. And here am I celebrating the wedding feast with a vision on the extraordinary generosity of God and his desire to bring us back together. That was pretty much, I could tell you a whole lot of other little things, but I think that's enough. And it's like how I began. I give you a bit of buttermilk, and I give you a bit of lard, and I give you a bit of flour, and maybe we did a little bit of baking, and somehow or another I gave you some biscuits. And I just want you to know what a joy it is to be here, what a joy it was to have Father Chris here, so that I could just go and do that kind of thing. To have you here, that somehow or another, that link, particularly of the Mass, keeps us together. And to know that there are so many people, even in Fairfield Glade, even who are Catholic people, and that belong to us, and they're ours, who don't know the richness and the value of just that little celebration that we have here at the altar, where we take bread and we break it, and it's nothing. And it wouldn't, as I oftentimes say, it wouldn't feed a mouse. And yet, it's God. And that what you're doing now as you go out, you're going to meet all kinds of things happening. And in everything that happens, the grace of God is on you with profound love, giving you opportunity to grow more and more in the mystery of the love of God. So there you go. Thank you. And thank you for my little thing.
Karen Benedetti, are you still here? Right. Yeah, stand up, please. What we do is going to be done by email now, more than ever. So if you did not get the agenda for today emailed to you from Karen like a week ago, find her address. Thank you. You can sit down. But she's the one. She's our secretary. So find her email address on the trifold and email her and tell her what your address is, because either she doesn't have it or she has it wrong, and that's how we're going to communicate from now on. So thank you.
Let me just give you a plug for what we're doing. 40 days before the election day, we will be coming together as a parish, beginning a second Lent, because we're going to dedicate those 40 days because of the turmoil that is in our country and the concerns. And I beg you to make plans now, not later, but make plans now to vote. I'll be telling you about voting somewhere down the road. Not telling you how to vote, but I will be telling you to vote. And please don't let that slip by. Okay? Thank you.
And I want to thank Linda Leahy for making these prayer cards. I have asked everybody I know, so I think that the original batch she made last year have truly disappeared, but if you know where our big bin is that has these in, let somebody know, please. But she made another 100 for today since last year's disappeared. So please, when you leave, put them at the end of your pew, and she's going to take them home and sanitize them so that we have them next time we get together. And Lee will do a closing prayer for us now. Thank you.
Until we can meet again sometime in the future, let us reflect on our Blessed Virgin Mother, because she is our perfect example and undeniably God's masterpiece. So we can remember to say the prayer, the Memorare, once a day until we meet again. And let's end this meeting with the Memorare. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession, was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my Mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy clemency hear and answer me. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
If somebody will stay and help sanitize, that'd be great.
I didn't put it on yet, but I will. Yeah, I'm sure it does. What were you going to say?
I was saying, they're carving the crazy horse in the same area.
Okay.
Huge, just like the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And we were there in the late 90s, and they were, maybe a quarter of the way through. These guys climbing around. And
Yes.
And